Hey everyone, Mrhappy here, and welcome to Mondays with Mrhappy, aka Mrhappy Mondays, a weekly Q&A show where you ask me questions and I answer them. It's another Sundays with Mr. Nappy for me again. I ended up just having to take a nap before I recorded this because just congestion, just lots of congestion this last week. I think the weather's finally starting to turn the other way. It's been like unusually chilly in California. It's also been unusually rainy in California. And I think that now that it's still being rainy, but it's still kind of flipping the other way. I feel like my body's reacting to it. But after a lunch and a nice nap, once again, I'm ready to get this done, which probably better than forcing it at 2 p.m., as many people have noted in the comment section of the previous weeks. That being said, we are starting our 6.4 news cycle soon. We have the letter from the producer live March 31st. I'll, of course, be live bright and early reporting on that with State of the Realm. We've got State of the Realms planned for the next several weeks, and I'm looking to get ahead on my video creation. This week, my videos are finally going to catch up to, I guess, the rate at which I was producing them, things like the retro videos and whatnot, and some other stuff that I've been working on. And that's because of the 1-hour deep dungeon guide I've been working on. I got most of the work done on that yesterday, but after this, I'm probably going to finish that up, get it rendered, and get it posted, because I want to get back to making some of the videos that I was doing to stay ahead of the curve on YouTube related stuff. We will, of course, have a PAX Q&A related video this week as well. We'll have the live letter video next week. And then on top of that, anything else that pops up. You know, it's just good. It feels good to be like so far ahead that I essentially don't have to worry about a video until next Tuesday. So that's like the video that I'm like getting ready to make after my deep dungeon guide is done. And it's honestly relaxing to think that, because it means I can take an afternoon nap like today. It means that I could maybe do an evening stream or something. I did some Theater Rhythm song requests on stream the other day after we were done with Final Fantasy VIII, and I've just been able to do things like that. So this will go on for at least another few months with these, like, I mean, I have months and months and months of patch related like retrospectives. I still have another like 5 or 6 jobs, I think, for the job retrospectives, for the raid rankings and stuff. We still have, like, I don't know, something about this year. Maybe it's the fact that I'm going to be moving in on my own. It's got me focused. I don't know. Something's different, but I'm working. And I hope you're all enjoying it, because I've just going through the comment section of those videos has been fantastic for me as well. Either way, let's get into the Q&A for this video so I can go finish that deep dungeon video. Thank you to our sponsors over on Patreon. They don't have to support, they choose to support. And, you know, all my content's available for free. So anyone who is choosing to, I definitely appreciate it, especially right now, because I'm putting in those hours just to make sure that I'm all set for everything with the move. So, and thank you, of course, to my other sponsors. We are going to be doing more like 60-second YouTube integrations. It's going to be a much more common thing this year, but hopefully people don't mind. I'm just checking the things that I'm actually putting at the start. Magic Spoon was a lot of fun, and they're still going to be in, I think, 1 or 2 more videos, and then I've got another couple of things for some 60-second integrations after that. So hopefully people don't mind, and hopefully people understand what I'm doing. Either way, let's get into the questions, shall we? And then I could go finish the guide. Hashtag Mondays with Mrhappy. Thanks for taking the time to read this, and hello. See, you made me nervous, because a thanks is a pretty interesting way to start. You know, I like it, it's positive, but the hello is there. It's just a little delayed. With the current 14 news cycle being somewhat meh because of reaction to the new Relic Cough grind, I didn't read it as like Relic grind, which is, I know what you meant. I've been enjoying your retrospectives, most recent 2.3. Thank you. Watching it reminded me of weird stuff that players used to do to pass the time. One of these took place during the 2.3 cycle. This was Lucrezia doing turn 9 at eye level 90 when the minimum was 105, which was considered crazy at the time since people were trying to clear during that period. The other is patch 2.55, clearing turn 5. Yeah, I've done I-55 turn 5. I have done that one. They call it an artifact run. Yep. Have you ever considered doing a well below mid-item level of a 6.0 or 6.2? Not really, only because the way the raids are made nowadays. So back then we were kind of really bad at the game with a lot of room to improve. Now it's less of a case, like the way the fights are designed and the way that the fights are balanced. They're balanced around a very specific item level, whereas fights back then weren't, and we were just kind of like awful. So it's one of those things that like as you got better, you can go back and do it. And you can technically do it with like the more recent raids, but I think it's more fun going back to the old raids and doing the low item level stuff, which I made a whole video on, because a lot of those are designed to be like those old minimum item level things, and thus eventually 6.0, 6.2, and 6.4 raids will have something similar when we go up in the level range. Again, you know, we go up to level 100, 110, whatever they decide to do. But you could, let me put it this way, you could definitely do it at the lower item levels, like probably another 5 item levels down. But would you want to? Questionable. I mean, it's really for people who are like, you know, really, really good Barse Lords, and they just want to beat it at an even lower item level. One thing somebody pointed out to me, because I don't know much about World of Warcraft and their logging scene, is their logging scene actually has what's called item level percentage on their logs. And I think it's like 100% is equal to the highest item level possible. And then anything lower than that, it gives you, I'd have to look at it again because I was really tired. It was like 10:30 at night when I saw someone talking about it. And it lets you know how much of like the best in slot item level that like people have, or how close to the maximum value they have. And I think that would be a very good piece of information, because then people could go for item level percentage runs. And I know that people who care about logging would care about something like that. So I actually kind of wish we did have that, and I hope they do it at some point. Not to mention, it's just good information to have. You know how many times people like compare logs and they have no idea what the item level difference is between the two of them? Someone with like 605 is like, man, how am I doing, you know, 2,000 less than this other person? And it's like, well, given they have 100 logs, there's a good chance they're BIS, so you might want to start there. So I think that would just be another thing they should probably add that might reinvigorate it might reinvigorate the scene in the way that you're kind of implying without achieving it all the way. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Hey, how's it going? Hi, great. You, me? Huh? Yeah. Okay. Glad to hear it. Hey, thanks. Awesome. I've been watching your Q&A videos for a while now. I feel like they're pretty conspicuous topic omission. I'm going to address the elephant in the room. How do you feel about determinism? Are we masters of our own fate, or does our environment determine the person we become? Hey, I don't mind questions like this. I'm very centric when it comes to, I guess the question is that's not even nature versus nurture. It's close to that, but it's something like that. Yes, and you know what it is? We are absolutely masters of our own fate, but our environment can work against us from as early a point in life as imaginable. So we've seen amazing people achieve more amazing things, despite the fact that everything in the world was against them at any given point. And I feel like everyone should always look at what somebody else can achieve and not look on with jealousy, but look on and be curious about how one managed to achieve that. Because I feel like we as people can learn a lot about ourselves probably in the process of doing that. So don't let anyone else stop you from trying something. Even if it's a simple dude. I've seen people who just don't want to make YouTube videos because they're like, oh, I would love to do it, but people already make videos on this topic, so I don't want to do it. It's like, who cares? Just do it. Don't make it. That's nobody else but you. You might be better at it. So go ahead, get to it. You know, you never know. Hashtag Mondays happy, Mr. Happy Mondays. See, I started with the Monday instead of the Mr. because it's rare that I see myself referred to as MH. Let's see. Mr. Happy Mondays. There we go. Hello and good day. Hi. Recently joined the static and started on my first ultimate war main, if that matters. Nice. Cleared Liquid and T, and we're on to BJCC. Question is, how would you rank the phases in order of difficulty? BJCC is a big hump. Alex isn't that bad until Wormhole, and Perfect Alex is a victory lap. I feel like calling Perfect Alex a victory lap makes that prog take longer, but relatively speaking, it is true. You pretty much got it head on. If anything, the first phase is the most, I'm not going to call it frustrating, but this is true just because it's the first phase. It's the, phase you'll see the most. And Yeah, it's literally just down to the fact that, you know, you have doll crits and sometimes people are just off barely. And then it's just like Proteans, man. It's all Proteans. Like after it's dolls, the whole phase is there's Proteans here and Proteans there. Man, I just wish they had more of Living Liquid's mechanics in that first phase. And people just messing up Hand of Pain. Like people just letting them get too far apart, not paying attention. And it's weird. Phase 1 deaths are really weird because after dolls, like, nothing happens. It's just a bunch of Proteans. Proteans, some tank busters, and that's like the end of it. And yet somehow it just falls apart and you never understand why. So, yeah, I'd say that you've pretty much got it down. BJCC, in my opinion, BJCC, the hardest phase in the fight, easiest to screw up. It's like one slight mismovement and it's all over. But that's, I guess, including the first phase, yeah, it would be hardest phase BJCC, second hardest phase Living Liquid, third hardest Alexander, because honestly, I didn't even think Wormhole's that bad. I think it's just highly punishing. And then Perfect Alex is a victory lap. Yeah, no, you got it. You got it down. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hi, Haps. Hi. Hope life is treating you well. After that nap, I'm still a little lethargic, but, you know, I'm doing better. Thanks. When do you think we will see some more updates on the coming graphical updates changes? You reckon Las Vegas? You know, I was thinking about this the other day. I want to say Las Vegas. I think it'll get mentioned again in Las Vegas. And yeah, you know what? I do think we'll see some more updated stuff. But I feel like they're going to want to wait till even closer to 7.0 before they show us too much. Because the last time they showed it to us, they were like, oh, we've been working on this a month. It's rare that they show us something they've only been working on a month and then go radio. Well, I guess it's rare they would show us something that early. So I feel like in the reverse, the next time we see it should be when it's close to finished. Because at this point, if they show it to us and it's still not at the quality they're aiming for, people might get worried. But people were really excited about the first one. It was a bit overdone on some of the lighting related stuff, but it was really cool. So I wouldn't be surprised to not see more than a mention of it at Las Vegas, and then they save it for the Japanese Fan Festival, which is another, 6 months later, because by then it should be much closer to a finished, I guess, update for whatever they'll have ready for 7.0 itself. So I wouldn't be surprised to not see it till January. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hello. Hi. Hope all is well. Hi. Hey. Continue to search for transfer. That's one way of referring to it. I was watching your latest look back for 2.3, and when you talked about Temtara hard mode with Edda, who lost her loved one, I remember that honestly being one of the coolest things I saw when I first played. It's one of the only dungeons I could think of that during the final cutscene, while the victory music is playing, your character isn't celebrating. Yeah, there's a few, but it's mostly not dungeons, but yeah. They just stand there looking sad, and I remember that being genuinely a really cool moment that helped my immersion, because her story is super tragic, and they actually showed it respect. My question for you is, do you have a favorite moment where the established pattern is broken up? Like at the end of the Tonberry dungeon when they all go and stab the boss and the warrior of light. That's a really good one, too. Any points where the game deviates from its usual patterns of celebration or gameplay? That actually would have been one that I named if you hadn't named it already, so thanks for taking my answer. I don't know. See, the thing is, the last two ultimates have kind of done this as well. Like the first three ultimates, the fight just kind of ends, and you're like da 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 da. But DSR and Top, DSR goes into this whole like storybook finish, and Top goes into something that's very similar in quality to that. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, I just like when they do it, but I guess I couldn't name a specific one because I kind of feel similar about all of them, if that makes sense. But you beat me to the direct answer that I would have stated if you had not said it already. So that's going to be my answer, is the Tonberry dungeon, because when the boss dies and you're like, we did it. And the Tonberry's like, to the boss when they're done. Hashtag Mr. Happier Mondays. What is this, a competition now? Come on. You're looking more happy than last week. I don't know. I had a good meal, so there's like maybe there's extra pound or two on the face. So that's a little, that would look a little bit more happy. I like that energy people have when they're holding fast in strat near the end of a boss fight. No, that's a very different face. It's like that guy who's like sweating profusely. Anyways, last week I asked about the Omicron emotes, Omega M and F. I meant the emotes were linked to the limited run. Oh, yeah, because you called them Omicron emotes, and I was so confused. I was like, there's no Omicron emote. You just meant Omega. Because that's not how Omicrons look, you know. That's an Omega specific thing. Has SE ever said anything about reissuing the statues? No. And I wouldn't expect them to. Sometimes you can find like unpurchased ones. I think Eorzea Cafe had the Shiva statue well after they were available, or well after they were no longer available for that one. But no, I don't think so. And maybe one day they'll reissue them, but they don't. If they're gonna say that, that's something you would already know, because they would say it as they're doing it, or like right before they do it. So that's it. Hashtag Mr. Happy Monday. Hi, Happy. Hi. I've been making it a habit to keep up with these Q&As lately since they are so consistently filled with helpful or interesting info. So thanks for the content. I'm glad you're enjoying them. That's the hope. There's a lot of repetitiveness, but I mean, you can't expect everyone to watch every video, because that would be, I have 4,000 videos. You would die before you finish them all. As for my topic of discussion this week, I have a friend who, for the entire time I've played the game, has lamented over the existence of an optimal Black Mage rotation. I'm going to check something real quick. Okay, sorry. I've had a bunch of audio issues, and I got like, all of a sudden, I got mentally nervous that it was recording through the wrong microphone, but no, it's definitely recording through the right one. I don't play the class personally, so I have no context. He describes the process of tick manipulation and unintuitive ability usage as the general playstyle it requires. That's not that true anymore. Like there's a tiny bit of it, but you really don't have to care all that much. He wants to improve as a player, but he gets annoyed and discouraged when he feels like he needs to utilize outside resource. You don't need to do that for Black Mage at all. I've been an orange Black Mage. Like, you don't need to do that stuff. I thought I heard that Square was aware of this thing and they were working to change the class so it was necessary during a lot. So they did actually mention that there was still some weirdness they'd like to fix up with the tick management, but you don't need to do that. You really don't. At this point, you have to remember that improvement is... So Black Mage is one of the jobs that is most directly improvable without worrying about what other people are doing, especially if you're looking specifically at RDPS, which I'm sure he is, because if you're looking at I mean, I guess you could look at ADPS. I mean, for Black Mage, that's pretty much the same point of improvement. So improving in one will naturally improve the other. So I'm assuming you are referring to RDPS though. And for that, I mean, that's going to come down to properly utilizing burst windows and not leave. Like, you don't need to do the craziness. Like, that's it. Because if you're saying, here's the thing. If you were saying he was hitting high purples, which would be 90 to 94, at that point you get really close to it being just crit. And there's nothing you can really do about that. And in which case, going crit Black Mage has greater variance between pulls, but you do get those higher pulls occasionally just because you do. Whereas spell speed Black Mage is a lot more consistent, but you may struggle to get into that final upper echelon. So you know, it's just, you know, pick your poison, I suppose. But if you're hitting low purples, that's not the finicky stuff that does that. That means there's a fundamental misunderstanding at some point of the way you're supposed to play Black Mage in a particular fight. That can be things like using triple cast for the sake of just using it on cooldown versus having it for a movement and then not being able to do the movement correctly, or not making sure that you're, you know, or making sure you don't overcap on things like Xenoglossies, or losing thunder ticks, or not using sharp cast. You know, those are the kind of things, or a poorly placed ley lines. Like, all of those things are going to affect something like that more than tick manipulation. That's not low purples is up to 25% of, you know, the log's damage, and that's not going to be what's it. So have they mentioned trying to do away with little things like that? Absolutely. And I don't know if they have a timing, a 7.0 timing, or any other timing specifically for that, but they have mentioned it. But at the same time, it's still like, you think rotations like this belong in the game? It's not a thing. Like, it is a thing, but it's a thing that matters not at all. Again, I've been an orange Black Mage before. Like, I went out and made myself orange for an entire raid tier. Not to mention, is your friend Biss? That's another factor. I did just talk about this higher up. Like, there's too much information missing from this, I feel, that doesn't contextualize it well enough, because you don't need to do these things on Black Mage to do that well. So It's kind of like this weird middle ground answer where I'm not really answering the question. I'm more pointing out that something's missing information-wise in the question for me to be able to answer it accurately. So hopefully that's clear, because it's you don't need those things for Black Mage. You just don't. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. What's up, Haps? What's up? What's your opinion on making coils into Unreal? No, I've actually answered something like this before. People have asked about Unreal 8-mans, 24-mans, and, you know, there's Unreal Labyrinth, so that way it's, you know, not a joke for a little bit. But for coils, it's not a great idea. Especially when you go to the later coils, because Unreals are extreme difficulty fights that are being brought up. Raids, different story. Like, you'd have to do it simultaneously while doing the extremes. You couldn't like say, oh, for this patch we're doing the coils instead of the extremes, because then you're gonna just completely wall people who are doing it on the weekly. Listen, I would love a way to do them at an accurate power level that doesn't involve ripping all of my gear off, and like, you basically have to do them naked to do them at all, like to get even close to the difficulty from before. Like, it's almost entirely naked. But do I think they will? No. But just as, again, if they're gonna do it, just don't do it as the Unreal for the week. Like, oh, every week I need to do this. Like, I get what you're saying. You're not saying literally, but you know, just as long as it's not literally, then, I mean, they could. It just, I don't know. I just don't think they will. So before I answered this one, I skipped past the spoiler-related one, just because I'm really bad at remembering, you know, to put, I guess, skips in the description for that, because, you know, I go pedal to the metal with stuff. I will kind of answer the question first, though. The answer is, you are right. That did happen. However, said events that you're referring to likely took place before Endwalker, long before Endwalker, and thus you may get your wish after all. So, spoiler question. Hopefully that makes sense to you. As for the question in front of us, hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Hey, hi. Hope you've been doing well. The nap helped. Been loving the retrospective style content lately, so I have a query in spirit of it. Sure. Recently I learned and was surprised by the fact that both the Alliance and normal Raid Roulette were Stormblood editions. Yep. This was me wondering, how did folks went about populating those instances when they were not current? Was there something you had to try to PF, or a bunch of friends willing to take you through that content? It's crazy to imagine a point in time when the Crystal Tower was dead. It happened. Yeah, Crystal Tower and the Heavensward raids were horrible to get queues for quite some time. And as such, we got those Alliance raids, and that helped a lot, and then it became the Crystal Tower raid series. However, I will say this. It was bad, but it was bad in a different way. I don't know how to describe it. It was specific ones that were hard. Like, Labyrinth was still pretty quick, but Circus Tower and World of Darkness took very long. And that was kind of, Void Ark took forever, but the other ones were the same. Now, in the same expansion that they were available, it was never that bad, because their series, there's, much like there is now, there's always been a reason to do all of the 24-mans within a within a tier, within an expansion. You know, there's usually upgrade materials or things that you can earn through currencies and whatnot. But yeah, no, it was worse before Alliance raids were introduced. It was pretty bad. Dude, I can feel the congestion coming back already. I have this thing called a Navage, where it's basically like an electronic neti pot, and I have like this giant, like 3-gallon thing of distilled water that I use for that in my CPAP. And I'm gonna have to go blast myself after this. It's just been so congested as of late. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Lolly ho. Hi. You been doing all right? I'm doing all right. You doing all right? I'm doing all right. 2 questions. One, what do you think will be the next DPS job? I feel like there's absolutely zero way to accurately guess that. However, I don't think you mean the name of the job. I feel like you mean the name of the gear set, because you're looking at a dexterity job. So first of all, I don't think it'll be a scouting job. I think it'll be a caster. And yeah, so that's the answer. It'll be a caster. Now, I will say this. I am anticipating the day we get the expansion that only adds 1 new job. That being said, if we still get 2 new jobs, if they want to do something fun with scouting, I think this would be a 2 DPS expansion if they were. But I think at some point they can't just look at the armor set, and they do have to look at the total number of jobs in an entire, I guess, tree of things, like melee versus caster versus ranged. And so in that case, caster range would make the most sense, and then scouting would be along with a tank next expansion if they kept to 2 jobs. But caster to me feels like it has to, because even in the expansion, caster got a new job in that of Red Mage, which was 4.0. Samurai was introduced, and then in 5.0, they went Gunbreaker Dancer with Ranged Fizz, and then in 6.0 went Melee Healer. So I feel like even with scouting being a set and them saying they treat them like separately like that, like scouting versus striking versus maiming, I feel like it has to be caster. It's been so long. It's time. I almost tried to end the question there. There's a second one. Now we have a new relic going, which we all know is a bit trivial with progression, which is fine in a sense. But going back in time, doing a Realm Reborn relics these days starts to feel like a nightmare, especially the books with the fates you have to wait for, catch at the right time. No, those are easy. Nowadays, they're easy. Back then, the way the fates were done, like, you got to remember, we didn't have, like, Party Finder. We didn't have Great Duty Finder options. We couldn't, like, cross-world travel. Like, the access to those things was way worse back then. So, like, if I was, like, a black mage trying to do my relic, my only choice would be to sit in a, like, 30-minute queue for Cutter's Cry. If I was somebody who didn't have like a bunch of friends to do it with. So it could be pretty torturous to try to do that kind of stuff, especially if you were like a solo player. But nowadays, I don't think it would be that bad. It's just time consuming to do all of the steps, but they're not going to give any more shortcuts. They're not going to go back and modify the old relics in any way and the way you progress them. So no, they're going to keep them exactly the same. They're not going to go back. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hey, Haps, how's it going? Hi, it's going well. I'm doing all right. You doing all right? I'm doing all right. To add on to the discussion of the Stormblood story Ultimate, one bet they would focus a lot more on the Empire, probably just something to do with Magitech. Maybe as the fight progresses, you deal with Xenos transforming. Yeah, but it's still like, I don't know, it's still weird, in my opinion. Anyway, my question is that what are your thoughts on Grand Company content currently? Calling it content? We're calling Grand... I don't know that I would even put that in its own category. They seem like a big central part of the game as soon as you realize it's very short-lived. I'd like to give them more of a reason. Well, they said the only way they would update it is if they found a good reason to update it. And to be honest, especially story-wise, there isn't much of a reason to update the Grand Company stuff. Like, you have squadrons, which are still the best leveling method from like 20 to 55. That being said, there's still not a whole lot of reason to go back and do more with that. Yeah, I don't know. There's I don't know why they still lock the glam. I'm surprised they still do that, but that's about it, honestly. If they updated the glam, I'd be okay with them to be done with Grand Company stuff altogether. Hashtag happy with Mr. Mondays. Hi, greetings and salutations. Hello. I'm unsure how much stuff you do in regards to the hunt, but do you think there's any quality of life change that could be done for it? Credit with cross-world parties. So when they introduced the ability to change server while still in a cross-world party, they used the hunt as an example. Like, oh, if you want to go from a hunt from one server to the next, you don't have to leave your party. Nobody hunts in a cross-world party because you would still be getting solo credit for the hunt because your enmity doesn't share in the open world areas. So that's one, and that's like a really like minute thing. Help with early pullers. See, okay, so here's the big thing. And this is controversial because I'm both correct and incorrect. Early pulling doesn't exist. And I don't mean that like people don't disrespect the community standard that we set, because they do. People go out of their way and they say, oh, people are on their way here. I could wait a few more minutes. It's not really that big a deal. But then they go out of their way to be an asshole anyway. What I mean is that the content... Nobody owns the content. While, yes, we have created all of these great communities and people who work very hard, and I think you should be respectful of those people and how much time and effort they put into that content, especially into spawning said bosses and organizing them to make sure as many people as possible get credit. The fact of the matter is, we don't own them. We don't own those bosses. Nobody who is a member of the hunt community, it doesn't matter if you spawn them, whatever. It's a fact of the matter is that they are open world bosses that are meant to be attacked by anyone who is in the area, who sees them, finds them, and wants to fight them. So, no, I don't think they'll ever say anything like that because it's just not, the content's not designed for that, and I don't think it ever will be. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hello, happy and have a wonderful week to everyone everywhere. Hey, everyone, you had a good week. Yeah. How often do you think people would bring up the forum devs? How often do you think people bring up to the forum/devs the issue with the hardest encounter in the game? Talk about Mog Station Shop. I have a friend who refused to play the game after having issues just getting started. Had issues recently as I moved from America to Europe. Oh yeah, that's going to cause you an issue. Some weird bears. On a more light question, I mean, I'm sure people talk about it on the forums all the time because people are, you know, hardcore about that style of content. But, I mean, it is what it is. Different regions, different laws, different rules. Like, to me, there's no surprise. It's just, it sucks, but it's no surprise. On a more light question, on the years of living with cats, what would be the most important lesson to learn to improve the cats and your quality of life? I think, so improve quality of life is one thing. I think the most important lesson people don't learn about cats is what is toxic to a cat. I know so many people, or have known so many people before I owned cats, that have like lavender around the house. And that is a huge no-no. They have like lavender diffusers, or like they keep certain plants around the house without really researching what's safe and not safe to have. And it makes me nervous thinking about the number of people who I know who have used that kind of stuff in the past. And also people using things that are, you know, poisonous to cats to try to get them to not climb on stuff. Like, I've read forums of people being like, oh, just like squeeze lemons or something to get them away from you. You know, like, don't squeeze it on them, but like squeeze it in them. It's like, that's something that's like, the citric acid is like toxic to them. Don't just squeeze a lemon to get them to go away from something, or put like lemon scented shit. It's not good for, like, the oils from that like can get into their fur and shit. So for me, that's a big thing I've learned as a cat owner, is to try to be conscious of the number of things that are harmful to cats, because I always felt like growing up, I never learned that because nobody ever talked about it. So that was an important lesson for me to learn. That being said, in terms of improving both your quality of life, get a really good vacuum. Get a really, really good vacuum, because if you're like me and you have that big tub over, see this guy right here? He's laying down in the corner. Everything gets everywhere. Maybe that's why I'm congested. Maybe it's because of them. Who knows? But it's yeah, get a really good vacuum. That's my thing. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Hey, Happy. Hi. How you doing? I'm doing all right. You doing all right? I'm doing all right. Long-time watcher, but first-time boasters have a first-time bonus of your favorite beer. I'm not much of a beer drinker. I like to do sours only because I like the burn. But I'll have a nice IPA once in a while as well. Had a question I've been wondering ever since COVID began. Do you receive any sort of healthcare package through your network? This is America. Of course I don't. Also through my network, I mean, you mean through like the YouTube network? No, not at all. I pay for my own insurance out of pocket, and I don't pay too much. I try to pay like one of the lower amounts because I don't go to the doctor for much more than a checkup most of the time. And when I do, it's still, you know, I've got options. But yeah, so hope you're entitled to some kind of benefits. This is America. There's no benefits for anybody. Oh, man. Visiting family in New Jersey. What's your favorite pizza place? In all of New Jersey? I mean, you go to New York when you want the pizza. But, I mean, the pizza places I had growing up are not places I'm going to tell you about because they're local to where I grew up. I'm not trying to do that. But, yes, pizza. Pizza's good in New Jersey. So, eat it. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Hello to you, and aloha on Ivy too. Where is Ivy? She must have left in the middle of the recording. Hope your moving prep goes well. Thanks. Really weird to see your empty background after all these. It's not the first time. If you go back, there's some videos where that's completely empty. I think it's right after I moved in and right when I was moving from the old place to this place. And that won't even be back there. I'll have a different shelf back there with the way my new place is going to be set up. Trust me, it's going to look a lot weirder when you see what it's going to look like in the next place. But, you know, I'll leave that to be a surprise. Anyway, one quick question for you. With Endwalker Trial Series now including into the MSQ, would you prefer this way for upcoming expansions? I'm impartial. A trial is a trial to me. I don't really care if I have to do MSQ or not for it, so I just do content. It just doesn't matter enough to me for me to really have an opinion either way. So, sorry, kind of a cop-out answer, but it's how I feel. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hello, and I wish you luck with your move. Thank you. Recently been thinking that Endwalker will probably not be looked back on very fondly in terms of gameplay patch content. I've been seeing a lot of very valid complaints about things like relic, criterion reward structure, and the job design and 2-minute meta. The big thing is when you go back and do those things later, sometimes you enjoy them better when they're not what you're relying on for your current entertainment versus you having some time to go back and visit things that you felt like you couldn't make time for at some point. So it's I don't know, when sometimes, like, some people look back at the old relics that we used to hate, like, you know, the anima weapon, like the first step, or, you know, light farming. It's like things people hated on content, and they're glad to have something like that nowadays in between their current stuff. So I don't know, it's always kind of weird. That being said, I understand what you mean, which brings to my question: which expansion do you think had the best patch cycle and what made it so good? So that's tough. Because a lot of, as we're learning with the retrospective series, a lot of the old patch cycles introduced things that we would come to use consistently for years on end. Like A Realm Reborn introduced a ton of stuff that we still get updated to this day, and thus are technically part of our current patch cycles. So you can say that expansions became additive in terms of what became relevant in a patch-to-patch basis or an expansion-to-expansion basis. I think, however, the answer has to be Stormblood. A lot of people say, oh, Stormblood's like my least favorite expansion. And from a story perspective, I could understand feeling that way. But from a content update perspective, it had some equally as controversial things. But as a whole picture, I think we came out like bandits in Stormblood. Between having the Eureka patches and the relics that were tied to that, as well as the ultimates that we had, some really good raid tiers that we had, even if I'm not a fan of some of the fights in them, to having the Evil East raids. Like, do I look back and think that we were spoiled in any way? Not really. But do I look back and think to myself that we were very content at the time for the most part with what we got? Yeah, I think so. But I think that in the moment, almost everything seems like it's never enough, and that there's always complaining, because I remember the same thing in Stormblood. Like, everything that's happening now is stuff I heard in Stormblood and Heavensward and A Realm Reborn and Shadowbreaker. It's like, it's always noise, you know. That's why I just do my thing, and if I'm not satisfied with something, I say, and if I am, I am, and that's the end of it for me. You know, I just try not to linger on it for too much. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Hashtag your thoughts. Hi. I hope the Steep Dungeon patches continue to go well for you. Yeah, I got 4 clears. And I haven't gone back to finish my solo. I've just been focused on trying to get back to my count-up stuff. Something I've been so confused about: why has 14 decided not to display the EXP amounts in each duty roulette? Wondrous Tale seems to do it perfectly fine. I understand if it said it's 30, 20, 10%. Not having... So, from what I understand, the duty roulette isn't a flat percentage. It does dynamically change, like, on a per level that you're doing it basis. So, because it can't display... it's not a percentage-based value, they don't bother doing it. Like, yeah, technically there is still a value associated with every single level, but all that matters is that you're going to do it, and nothing else, really, I suppose. Yeah, it's just because the experience itself is not as consistent as 50% of a level is, like Wondrous Tales. So I think that's it. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hello and good day. Hi. This is a pretty opinionated question just for you. After seeing Godbird control as Mammoth in the battle against Geralt, do you think you could see yourself playing Mammoth Master? I made a video about this. I have a Puppet Master job video where I say it should be a ranged fizz. I have this. So the answer is always yes, because I would play Puppet Master if they made it a job. And go watch that video, because I put a lot of work into it. So thanks. Hashtag with happy Mondays Mister. I almost considered starting a lightning around here because we are getting towards the bottom of the things, and I gotta go take care of this sometime soon. Hello, good sir. First time commenting. Discovered your channel recently. I don't know what the quotes mean. I don't know. I don't know what quote discovered means. Thanks. Here's my question. With the addition of Duty Sport, we now know the Warrior of Light always has some companions to accompany them in dungeons and trials. I've only been playing since Shadowbringer, so I understand Duty Support is an extension of the trust system. Is it an extension of the trusts? Or I don't know, because it's more like the renamed version of trust, because trusts used to be what we called everything. It was the trust system and the avatar system before. They renamed the trust part to Duty Support and renamed the avatar system to the trust one. It's kind of weird, but essentially they're the same. I was wondering, with all you old-timers were assuming was going on before, was the general consensus the Warrior Light was going into dungeons and trials by themselves? Yes, unless explicitly stated prior to duty support stuff, they would create reasons as to why you had to go into everything on your own. And yeah, I mean, that's honestly, that's it. That's the answer. So, okay. Yeah. And just reading through this last bit. Yeah. I mean, you nailed it. So, yeah, that's it. We did it. Question answered. I'm going to lightning around the rest because this congestion is really killing me. Oh my goodness. There's one that has just a ton of text. Oh, it's about Final Fantasy IX. No, in fact, while I do have a lot of mechanical distress over Final Fantasy IX, I also just don't care about any of its characters. Vivi's the only Vivi's the only character I really care about. Then you have a couple of cool characters like Khuja and Beatrix, and I could throw every other character in the garbage. And you know what? Freya is almost not in that category, except that they abandon her after Disc 1 is done for like the brief, well, I mean, after the events that take place largely at the end of Disc 1, even they just throw her in the trash. And it feels like they threw most of the characters in the trash, including Amarant, who I think is actually in the trash. So yeah, there's very few. I was actually talking about it today. The only thing I like about Final Fantasy IX is the music and Vivi. And that's like, I don't care for anything else in that game. Any thoughts on symbiogenesis? That's going to be hilarious to watch. Can't wait to see that. How about that's my answer. That's going to be hilarious to watch. Let's see. See, I didn't even know what somebody's asking me to do Chat GPT. See, okay, so I don't like AI related stuff. Not because it's not sometimes hilarious. I'm sure some of you are very well aware of some of the absolutely hilarious stuff that's come out. I don't like the way technology like that is being used. And I definitely don't want it to be a replacement for me actually making content on my own channel. While yes, you can use it in such a way that it's more for just seeing how random and weird it is. But I'm not going to lie, I don't want to feed into the AI getting smarter. Not because I think AI is going to take over the world or all that stuff, but I don't like how seamless it's becoming to just make something look real. I don't like it. And I don't think anyone should like it. Like, I feel like, yeah, it's hilarious, fun in games that it's like this and it's the presidents and all that, but I don't like it. I don't like that one heckin' bit. So I definitely don't want to contribute towards it getting even better and better and better, because I feel like I don't need to explain that, you know? I feel like most people kind of understand why people may not be super thrilled about that kind of stuff. Not to mention, you know, on like the art department thing, I know so many artists who have just been, you know, they're so annoyed by AI art and how it's affected them and how it's continuing to affect them and how people are just making money off bullshit AI art and everything. AI is becoming an excuse for people to have no aptitude for anything and to just sell something anyone could make quite literally, and somehow it's working. It's embarrassing. Let's see, there's another couple questions here. Let's see. Notice you were talking about some kind of compensation for people who complete content early. I think that was somebody asking me if they should do that, and I said no. And so I don't think I was really looking for ideas, more so in that I was acknowledging a question that asked if they should do that, and I said I wasn't a huge fan of it, I feel like. Got a few comments about the Warrior of Light being an Archer in 1.0. Yeah, but since they took over, like, so Archer in 1.0, it's funny, they use that to display how kind of not battle hardened the Warrior of Light was at the start of his journey. Not only do we not have jobs back then, but he's a range class that really only does a couple of things throughout that fight. Like, he just plays backliner because there are other more heroic people taking the mantle for him there. I mean, if you go back and watch those fights, you can see how little he actually does in that encounter against the Malboro in the 1.0 trailer. Whereas now that he's a full-fledged hero, the Warrior of Light, you know, there's this massive force to be reckoned with, they really want to put him in more forward positions, places where he is on the front line and not just standing behind someone else. So I mean, that's why the archer never even gets to shoot a single arrow at the start of the Shadowbringer scene. So, yeah, I think we can't use 1.0. Remember this, the common rule is if it's from 1.0, it's probably not a standard that we should expect. And that's probably for the better things right now. Let's see. Is it safe to say Yoshi P single-handedly holding Square Enix together? No, I don't think it is. I think that Square Enix sets their standards for a lot of things very high. And, they also have to go. You know what's weird? So last fall they released like 12 games within like a 2-month time span, and I think a lot of that is catching up with COVID development cycles, because every month that somebody's working on a game, including when there's like transfer from work from office to work from home to back to work, for like all that stuff, I feel like all of those things cost them so much more money. And those were all going to be losses no matter what at the end of the day, just on that virtue alone. So I feel like for the next year or two, we're going to see none of those games, but we're going to see better management of those games and how they're released and the cycles they're released on. And they probably won't have as many issues. It's also not going to take long for the symbiogenesis thing to completely fall apart and crumble and not matter at all. And I feel like once that starts happening, we will hopefully see less and less of that. I mean, they should probably already see how little the like cloud statue stuff did and everything. So I feel like it's just going to take one good shot at it, even with the CEO, and then it's just going to be about individual project managers taking care of things, individual directors and producers and things taking care of things. I will say, though, that I look forward to his stuff the most, and I actually liked most of those other little projects that they did. We also know that in terms of traditional games, they are going to be looking for joint ownership and joint funding for a lot of those things, as opposed to being the sole funders of them, which means we'll probably see a few more outside Square Enix developed things being published by Square Enix, or at the very least not exclusively developed in-house. And to me, that's actually kind of exciting, because I think that they could probably do some more fun things if they reach a little bit outside their boundaries, just not symbiogenesis. Oh, man. And I think that that's it. I think those are all the questions for the week. But anyway, that's going to be a wrap for this week's episode of Mondays with Mr. Happy. If you have a question, be sure to ask it in the comment section of the video below. Be sure to like, favorite, subscribe, and share. And I am going to go take care of this congestion, because it sucks. So hopefully I sleep well tonight, and I don't have to keep napping in the middle of the day because of my nighttime congestion. With that, I will see all of you in next week's video. Be sure to enjoy everything that's coming out this week. I've got some fun stuff tucked in there, as well as some stuff that I haven't even made yet, so be on the lookout. Regardless, I'll see you in the next one, and until then, take care.